If you're watching live, you just got to hear a little bit of AI giving us a little special music as we start out this office hours for February 12th, 2025. It's the week where we're going into President's Day weekend. Remember, it's a holiday on Monday. Don't expect any deposits. The banks are taking a little nap. They'll come on Tuesday. Also, it's Valentine's Day on Saturday, so maybe you have something special. Go and treat your partners, your merchants, your special significant someone to something extra special. Maybe some roses, a nice dinner. Hey, it's a nice flight down to Catalina if you're living in California. Who knows what you're going to do? But here on Office Hours this week, we are going to be talking to one of our partners who's been with us for a decade. And as I bring our best partner, our best screen up here, all four of us together, let me introduce in the upper right-hand corner, Miss Jenny Rickle. Jenny, we missed you last week. I saw you last week, actually. We missed you 2 weeks ago. You've been out for a couple weeks. Welcome back to Office Hours. How's life in Glenwood Springs, Colorado?
It's going great. I'm so happy to be back. And then we had a great time last week in Boston, Nate. So it's been moving and grooving, honestly, and just really excited to be here.
It is. All right, on your lower right-hand corner, living the dream in Warsaw, Indiana, making sure that he didn't pack up and move to California yet, but maybe he will in the years to come. Mr. Mike Stetzel. Mike, how are you, and how is life in Warsaw, Indiana?
It's great. It's great. Going to look at some great temperatures Saturday, even better next week. But I think we all just need to take a moment to be able to breathe and let Jeff laugh. Let us all laugh. That was awesome. That was awesome.
For those
Whoever
who
gets the creative credit for that, man.
Yeah.
I give Gemini, our friends, and I don't even remember what app I used for the music. It was a new one that I was testing out, but and the that is a little nano banana on that image. That was one of my favorite images that it ever created. I just gave it Jeff's image and I said, give me a Beverly Hillbillies picture, and that's what it gave me. I thought that was not bad here.
Goodness.
So, Mike, can you go ahead and introduce that person on our lower left-hand corner there?
As you said in your introduction, Jeff Zaret's been with us for 10 years. I remember he was probably, I'll be here 12 years in April. He was probably one of our first partners I got to know and got to work with more often as he started to grow and got to learn about him and his dedication to his clients. And as we found with a lot of people that have been on this show, it's a dedication for them. And I remember taking calls from Jeff at morning, evening, night, afternoon, because he was there for the merchants, just the way a lot of you all are, and ready to help them, even though we might have to connect them with tech support. But Jeff just always struck me as that guy that was really there for his merchants, there for our team. He would come visit us periodically in Indiana when he lived in Ohio, and has attended several meetings. So Jeff's just been a part of this family for a long, long time, and want to welcome him to the show today.
Thank you. First of all, I need a copy of that song in that file, because I've never laughed so hard in my life. That was hilarious.
I'm glad I surprised you. I made usually I do a test run of the countdown before. I was like, I can't let him hear that song till I roll it live. So
no, I want a copy of that. So
absolutely, I will email that over to you. But Jeff, let's start from the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. Let's talk a little bit how you got into this payments game. I know we weren't your first stop, and then how you kind of met up with PayProTec a decade ago, and where you were kind of wherever you want to start. It's your life story. You get to tell it how you want to.
Yeah, no. So I partnered with PayProTec 2016. So we're at 10 years now. Prior to that, I was working for another company in Ohio, and I was a sales rep. It was I had been in sales for years, and I got into this industry I just was not happy with my job, and I left. And this person said, "Hey, I own a company doing credit card processing," and I really didn't have a vision of doing it, because my vision, I saw that as it was just selling widgets. Here's your terminal, here's your equipment, and all that. And I'm a very left or right brain creative solution finder, and I want to, I have a background in marketing, and so I didn't see it as a fit. But I said, I'll give it a try. And I worked for that person for several years and enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy. I'm big on customer service, and my hands were tied as far as, I couldn't make promises, or I would make promises to the customers, and I'd have to jump through hoops to make it to work. So I started looking elsewhere, and it was funny because I was looking back through my notes while I was working for that company. I got these emails from this gentleman trying to recruit me for a company called Total Merchant Services, and that gentleman's name was Danny Shard.
Yep.
And I had forgotten about that, and I had moved on. And
Mm.
fast forward 2016, I reached out, and Danny popped up in my emails, and I said, "This name sounds familiar." And I found the old emails, and so we started realizing we had talked before, but it never connected. And then after talking to Danny, and what my vision was I wanted a partnership, but I wanted to kind of create my own brand within that partnership. And he said, "Here's we can make it work." And I created PayProTec Ohio, um, 2016. And what I loved about PayProTech in those early days, and I met with Matt and had lunch with Matt from the beginning. It didn't feel it was a family, and to this day it's felt like a family. I mean, I've through the events I've gone to and all that. Um, it's not just there's a team there for me, but it's friends and it's family, and that's kept me going for 10 years through the good times and the challenging times.
All right, so we'll go round robin on questions. So I get the first question, then Jenny, then Mike. So as we kind of converge, but Jeff, one of the things you're one of the partners that have been at I know you've been in the Warsaw office, you've been in our
Hmm.
Indianapolis office, you've been at a POS, what was the old POS team, now POS Pros meetings.
Hmm.
I know I have I just saw a picture that I was pulling up when I was doing searches for pictures of you and me. I think it was an NEAA that you were with the late Mark Beauchamp and Danny, and I think it was your birthday
Yeah.
at a Morton's, maybe I think it was. You've been
Yeah,
at
Mark surprised me for
yeah
it was my 40th birthday, I think, and he maybe 50th birthday. Anyways, he surprised me at dinner at Morton's, so which was
yeah,
nice.
but
I think I've seen pictures from that.
yeah, you've been around our team in person. We were talking off air
Hmm.
before we jumped on live that we're going to see you hopefully at Palm Springs and Western States. Why has that been important for you to be actually to come and meet us in person? I mean, you could do business with us with never talking to us in person, never connecting with us in person. But why has that been important to like learning the ethos and the family of PayProTech?
I think it's the same reason why it's important when I have clients that I've signed up over the phone in different states and I've never met, and you don't have that same relationship. I mean, the clients that I have here in California, and when I was in Ohio, the clients that I had in Ohio and still have in Ohio, to be able to go in and see those people. And the same thing with you guys. It's, you know, I, I know I can call partner support. I know I can send an email and talk, but it feels very disconnected. And when I can circle back around and when there's an opportunity to go to an event or go to a meeting and see everybody, it's it's not about business at that point. It's about building and developing and growing the strength of that relationship, and that trust. And I'm I don't know if I'm one of the rare people. I know there's people in this industry that partner with several different companies under their brand. I have one partner, and that's PayProTech. And th- I don't want to really partner with anybody else because I know it wouldn't be that family feel. And it's come from going to those events and being if I'm in Colorado skiing, I know I can meet up with Danny and meet him on the slopes, and or go golfing with somebody and hang out, and I miss, and it's been a long time since I've seen some of these people. um and I miss them. It's like a friendship. It's family.
All right, Jenny, you got that's a great. And Jeff, I think I'll just add to that. It's you've made the commitment to be because
Yeah.
obviously when you're in Ohio came to it was easier to come to Indianapolis or Warsaw, but that you've been there. I mean, I think you're probably the most traveled PayProTech partner that you've been at Las Vegas, and I know you were at our Huntington Beach event, and I'm trying to picture all the events you've been. I know, yeah, you should have come to Boston, then you could have gone east to west and been the whole. But Jenny, your next question.
So I kind of want to circle back to we've talked about that you moved from Ohio to California, and you
Hmm.
also have, businesses everywhere. So do you take a different sales approach when you're in a different area, or what is your approach when you're in a different place? Is it all the same, or do you change it up a little bit?
No, it's very different. I mean, the customers that are in the Midwest versus Southern California, it's a different vibe. Um, I what I love about this industry, and I've always loved about this industry, is I'm not restricted to, and I tell people when I go to chamber events or whatever, it's like, if you know somebody that's in Florida or Texas, or I mean, I had clients in Alaska. I have clients in Hawaii. I've got a art gallery in Hawaii, and I picked them up when I was on vacation there, and ended up staying another week and signing up another client. So you've got that freedom. What becomes challenging and what's a little hard is if you're not in that area. Being here in California and being in this area, when I'm talking to these people, I can talk to, yeah, I grew up here, I was born and raised here, went to high school here. So it gives it that feel so it's a little more work when you're in a different state talking to somebody, but you just develop that relationship after the fact and let them know you'll be around. That's the important thing. Is um, too many times in this industry, you hear about people that will sign up a merchant and then say, okay, if you have a problem, just call the 800 number. And they never hear from that rep
Hmm.
again. And it's just a sales rep. Where I give them that option and say, yes, you have 24-hour support. You have somebody you can call if I'm not available, but call me if you need me and all that. And my clients, I give them my cell phone number, and I have no problem with them reaching out to me and answering questions in a quick text message. And that, even if they're in another state, gives them that comfort of knowing, okay, even though this guy's not here, he's here for me. And that's the most important thing.
All right, Mike, you got the next question.
That is exactly what I was saying about Jeff. And when again he and I met when he first started, and one of the really cool stories that I remember, and this is just about one of his merchants. For those of you that don't live near Ohio, I don't think there's a lot of states that do this, but I was in Ohio one day and I went into this little drive up thing, and you can order your liquor, your beer, your chips, all this stuff. And I got out to go pay him. Like, holy crap, that says PayProTec. I texted Jeff. I said, "Is this your merchant?" He's like, "Yep, that's mine." So yeah, for those of us that are sheltered in other states, it is a heck of a great experience. But I was going to ask Jeff. I've known you a while, and we're friends on social media, so I know some of these things. But you're a dedicated guy, and you are hardcore into supporting your clients. But also, I know you do a lot of things, a lot of cool hobbies. Anything in particular you want to share, or a few things you want to share that you do for fun outside of the processing world?
You know, I like to do as much as I can for fun. I learned a long time ago, you only live once. And this industry has allowed me to find that balance. So one of the things since 1986, I used to be a full-time road comic, doing stand-up comedy every weekend, traveling. And now I still do comedy, but I pick and choose my battles as I've gotten older. But I do stand-up comedy, and I've performed on cruise ships and do corporate gigs. 3 years ago, I got my pilot's license and fly private as a private pilot. And then I just recently started volunteering with the local sheriff doing that. So it's allowed me to do this industry and have a good living, but at the same time have those freedoms to travel or fly or jump on my plane. And the thing is, the funny part is, I actually have started combining the two worlds. So now I'll fly into an airport that has a little cafe or a restaurant at the airport, and I'll see that their point of sale system's antiquated. So I put together a program specifically for cafes at airports, and I can speak to them as a pilot, and they listen to me because I'm a pilot, and it's
Yeah.
the best of both worlds. So I can provide credit card processing for them, and I fly into the airport to get them set up.
Well, and you brought up the flexible schedule because I know looking at the shelf behind you, I know that's another one of your big hobbies.
Disney.
Is
Yeah.
this Disney? And you know what? I'll see you pop up on social media on a Tuesday at Disneyland because you can. But
Yeah.
again, you've got your phone with you. You're still there to help. But again, this job has offered you the ability to say, you know what? I'm going to take the afternoon and go have fun.
I actually I actually was at Disneyland on a weekday, and I was walking through the park, got a text message from a client, issue with their POS system, and I stepped to the side and I found a quiet spot, which was challenging at Disney, but I found a quiet spot. And I actually told the client, said, listen, I'm at Disneyland, but, and I stopped and helped them. And 20 minutes later, the problem was fixed and I got on the next ride. So I don't, someone asked me if I was retired and I'm like, no. And said, well, what do you do for work? I said, I don't work. I don't consider this a job. I don't consider this work. And that's why at 58, I'm still doing this and I don't see stopping doing
Right.
this anytime soon. Because I have that flexibility if I want to take off and go on a cruise for a week or travel and do it. And even when I'm on a cruise, when I pull into port, I have access to my phone and I can answer a question. So,
I, I one, I love that you have made this more than just, it's a career. It's just, it's part of your lifestyle and it fits into your
mhm.
lifestyle and it can build around it. It doesn't look one way for any of our partners. There are multiple ways, but you've been able to go to Disneyland and, take a quick call and be able to support a merchant. And then you take up flying and you're helping cafes and you're blending that in. I want to transition a little bit. I have a 3-part question for you.
Okay.
And this is kind of about you've been in this industry for over a decade with just PayProTec. What do you wish you knew at the beginning? What do you wish you'd learned faster? Number 2, what are some of the changes that are the best? Don't we've had, you were at 2016, you were right there when you came with us. That was EMV transition, right at the end, really, kind of, but right in still in the part of that. You've seen lots of changes. What are some of those changes that are best? And then you've been doing this long enough. What are some of the things you wish how things would change? So what you wish you knew, what some of the biggest changes for the good that you've seen in payments, and then lastly, what do you wish how do you things should evolve?
What I wish I'd known, that's easy. What I wish I'd known 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I thought it was all about the numbers. Sign up as many clients as possible and get those numbers. And yeah, I was building this portfolio and I had a lot of
Mhm.
numbers. But then when I looked at my residuals, I'm making $5 here, $10 here. I wasn't signing up. I was signing up quantity, not quality. And
Hmm.
so as the industry has changed, now you can sign up, 3 merchants for the month and put them on edge and make more money than you would with 10 clients on standard pricing. So it's a matter of finding the right clients now and focusing on that. And so that's alleviating my stress. So I wish I knew that. As far as the change, obviously, I was looking at this, pricing. Back then, everything was tiered. Everybody was doing tiered pricing, and now everything is, transparent. Everything is, we've got flat rate pricing, we've got edge, we've got, very clean and easy, and um, the equipment changed, like you said, everything. I mean, I remember even 10 years ago signing up clients and I'd go in to do a comparison and they were still using knuckle busters and calling
Mhm.
and calling in and getting approvals. And now you've got this technology where it's all software based and POS cloud based. Um, and you've got one piece of equipment that you're and not leasing them and you're providing them a free piece of equipment, and it's the equipment's the hardware is remaining the same, but the software is constantly changing on a daily basis
Mhm.
to keep up with the safety and the technology, and then PCI compliance and safety. So all those things have changed, and then and my 58-year-old brain. What was the third?
No, no problem. What were some changes you hope that evolve and are coming in
Oh,
payments?
it's all about change. It's all about development. Back when, I got into this industry going, oh, I'm going to get in this industry because everybody will always take credit cards. And then this thing called COVID hit where,
Mm,
where the world shut down. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. So let's pivot. So I'm constantly looking for opportunities before, 10 years ago, it was about providing you with a way to process your credit cards. Now it's a way of how can I help you build your business and protect your profits and increase your profitability. And several years ago, I partnered with a company where I provide a service for merchants, for restaurants, for online delivery and carry out that stays on their website. We provide the website, we build the website, and they're not paying that 30% to Grubhub or the third parties.
mhm,
And there's no credit card fees to the merchant. And it's also building their revenue because part of that program is increasing their traffic to the business. So, and when COVID hit, and here in California, and I'm sure it was the same in Indiana, but when things opened back up, the governor said, you can go ahead and do food pickup. And a lot of these restaurants weren't set up for that. And
mhm,
so we were able to set up a way where a customer could go on their website, place an order, pay for it. It's done. Just show up to the restaurant and pick it. And I had several restaurants that were able to stay open and survive
mhm,
and not go out of business because we were able to offer them this solution. And then that develops that relationship to get all of their processing eventually. So it's a matter of, continuing to learn the technology because the technology is going to continue to grow and continue to change as we get into software based, as we get into this AI, as we get into technology. So I'm just excited to see where it's going to go because I know it's in another 10 years from now it's going to be leaps and bounds what it is now.
All right, we'll do one more question in the round robin. Jenny, what's your last question for Jeff as we have this time?
I love that you have so much flexibility and like you live every day, it sounds like.
Mhm.
But how does that integrate with your job as a sales partner when you generate leads? Do you just find that you go out and hit the streets and if you see a business as a prospect, that's you sign them up? Or do you have a list that you go through every day? Like when you're bringing on new business, what is your style for to bring them on and to even go find these businesses?
um, there's people that will argue this. There's go back and forth. I used to be that guy who was cold calling and driving around and knocking on doors. And there was, and I learned this from PayProTec. There was a program we did for a while where we would show up and just offer them couple free rolls of paper and just drop off some information if you ever need it. And what I found as time has developed is these businesses are getting so bombarded with telemarketers and calls, and 9 times out of 10, the decision maker is not even there. So I'm not saying cold calling is a waste of time. It just doesn't work for me. And what has worked for me in this area is I have developed a relationship, a strong relationship. There in this surrounding area there are several chambers of commerce, and I do the credit card processing for 7 different chambers of commerce, including the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce. Now, the processing from the chamber itself doesn't provide that much revenue, but being able to go to these businesses within those chambers and say, I am the official processor of the chamber, that goes a long way. And going to these networking events at the chambers and being introduced as the official processor, it's become referral based. It's become, people are coming to me now going, hey, I heard. And the funny part is, and I think it's a good thing, I will get calls off of my website and all that from from PayProTech merchants that aren't my merchants they're partnered with another PayProTec partner in another state, but when they do a search and they're coming up, they're finding my website and they're calling me thinking that I'm the person they need to contact. And I explained to them, no, you need to call PayProTec and they will help you find your right partner and all that. But that's come from developing those relationships and building those relationships and growing that brand, um, and that partnership. So I think being involved with your local chamber is huge.
I would have never thought that. I think that's some really good advice.
And it takes the right Jeff, and I think you have it, the right personality to do those. It's because the chamber plays are longer plays, but you've got
Mhm.
you're giving an opportunity to build those relationships in the relationship game. And did you do chamber? I don't remember this in Ohio, or was that the chamber relationship? Was that a new when you
No,
came to California?
I did chamber in Ohio, but like I said, back when I first started, I was working for somebody else. So my focus was a little different because I was a sales rep. So back then I was doing the cold calling. I was, you know, doing doing that. I will say, and Danny and I have talked about this. There's companies out there that say, "Hey, hire us, and we'll set appointments for you." I stay away from those. I tested one of those companies, and I said, well, I want to hear what you're saying I want to hear what your phone people are saying to these merchants to get the appointment set. And they were getting paid for setting appointments. So they were saying whatever it took to get the appointment. And then when you show up, the person's like, I told that person not, and that puts a bad taste in
Mhm.
their mouth. So you've got to do it yourself and you've got to do the work. Um, and just get out there and develop those relationships. But it's, when it comes, and people have heard this, and if you're new in this industry and you're getting into this and you're going out and doing networking, um, it's networking is all about developing a relationship, not selling, because people will do business with people they know, like, and trust. So get out there and develop those relationships, with people, and develop relationships with people that you may not be doing their processing, but one of the things I focus on is companies that build websites, because you partner with them, they're building these websites, and those websites they build are going to need processing. Well, if you've got a relationship and you're their processor, they become your salesperson for you and set them up and say, okay, we set up your website. Now we're going to get you set up with the processing, and they turn it over to me, and I give them a piece of the residual.
Awesome. All right, Mike Stetzel, you've got your last question for Jeff. What are you going to grill him
Yes,
with here?
sir. So to kind of close the loop on, or talking about prospecting now, what do you do to make your merchants still feel special, whether they've been with you for a year, 5 years, or more? And maybe more specifically, even when you have some that are still long distance. And obviously, you're back in Ohio periodically, but
Mhm.
not often enough to swing in and buy a cup of coffee from them. But so, what do you do to employ those things? 'Cause I know you have really good retention.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of that is just staying in front of them. One of the things, and it's a very simple thing, and there's different programs out there you can do, but there's a company out there called Send Out Cards, and it's awesome because I sign up a new client, I put them into the system. As soon as I sign them up, they get a thank you card, and it's looks like it's hand signed by me, and it goes to them. And then the way the system works is you can send out, if it's Thanksgiving, you can send out Thanksgiving cards. If it's the holidays, you can send out holiday cards. If it's their birthday, it'll recognize that and it'll send them a birthday card. So I've got clients that go, they haven't seen me for a while, but they're getting a birthday card from me. And it's like, oh, that's impressive. You remember my birthday. I didn't, but it's in the system. So that is huge. And then obviously, if you're local, I've got, coffee shop. If I've got a coffee shop and I'm doing networking with somebody or I'm doing another meeting with another client, I take that client to that business. And then the other thing that helps, and this works obviously only if you're, and it can work if you're not with them, but if you develop your relationship in your network, and I've got a ton of people in my network that do things, website developers, different things like that. If I have somebody that I think can help that business grow, whether it be a bookkeeper, whether it be payroll, whatever, introduce them. And if I'm providing them a contact that's helping their business grow, it's like, wow, this had nothing to do with credit card processing, but he hooked me up with this great guy that helped me build this new website that I love. They remember that, and it develops that relationship. And some of my clients I've become friends with. I mean, they
Hmm.
know I do stand up comedy. They come out and see my comedy shows. So it's just like I said, it's all about relationship building. Not don't be a salesperson, be a consultant.
Yeah, I love
And
that, Jeff.
that's perfect. And that's what I tell people that are new to us is I explain that all of the things we just talked about is how Matt Hoskins got the first 400 customers when he started processing business, and it's how we teach people still is I think what you're kind of saying is be a consultant. We're here to help, not sell. Brian Linky says be a normal person, but that's it. And you're just being aware. And I think it takes a different mindset to separate yourself from your hustle and bustle of maybe making those cold calls, going to chamber meetings, going to networking meetings, and stop and remember these other 30, 40, 100 people that you do need to touch, or as you said, stay in front of. And so thank you for that. That's
Yeah,
awesome. It's
I
called
made I
Spend
made a quick
Art.
note, and I made a quick note, and I think this sums it up. And this was from 10 years ago versus now. 10 years ago, merchant services was about simply moving money, processing, and that was it. It was about setting you up, processing, moving money. Fast forward 10 years, merchant services now is about helping businesses run smarter, protect profits, and support long term growth. And if we remember that and focus on that, the money will come.
Love
Excellent.
it.
Love that. And I'll say, I love your idea about like send out cards. I just help a partner set up Postable. There's several companies that do that. And what we were able to do is he like ranked, how much, because some of them he was sending like not only a card that was totally automated, but a gift. And, they're going to get a cupcake and just doing little things like that. And I say, you said about, it's like being be a real person. It's just be a person in the world of AI that sets you so much apart
Mhm.
when you're actually dealing with person to person business. And that sets you apart in this merchant services game. My last question for
Absolutely.
you, Jeff, is totally not merchant services, not payments. I love watching your incredible photography as you're flying around. What's your favorite place to
Mhm.
fly in and out of, or maybe your favorite flight? I don't know how to picture it. Whatever. What's your place that you just, man, I just love flying in and out of there?
You know, for me, flying is just relaxing. I love getting up in the air, and there's nothing more relaxing, and especially here in California. And you've got one of those days where it's beautiful blue skies, and you got some white puffy clouds, and you're flying above it. And for me, it's about, like I said, developing those memories. So I've flown some very cool places, but for me, the best part is my dad now is 86 years old, and I got my pilot's license 3 years ago. And last year, I flew my dad to Sedona. We just jumped in the plane, flew to Sedona, had lunch in Sedona, and then I took off and flew and circled him over the Grand Canyon and flew back. And we came back, and my dad said, after watching me communicate with everybody and talk to everybody, he said, "Wow,
Mhm.
I got to tell you, I'm really proud of you. And that was really impressive." And to hear that from my dad and have that memory of
Mhm.
being able to take my dad flying will probably
Mhm.
be, I mean, I love flying down the coast. We have California, so I'll jump in the plane and fly down the coast to Santa Barbara and grab lunch on a beautiful day, or fly out to Catalina and grab a burger. Um, and there's some fun airports to land at, and it's just being able to get up in the air is just, to me, it's relaxing.
That's awesome. And I'm glad that this industry provides that opportunity to do that and the flexibility and to go after hobbies and other whether it's, going and continuing comedy and all the things you've been able to do, there's very few industries that allow you to do that. And payments is one of them. And I'm glad for that. All right, let me do a couple closing things as we close out. We'll be live again next week around noon. I already forget who we're having, but I know Emily, our project manager, is on top of that, getting that taken care of. And then I wanted to highlight, I just got off the phone. We're putting an event together for March 18th at 7 p.m. in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm not going to say where yet, though I think I have it. I just haven't signed a contract yet. But it'll be it's going to be in the Midtown Atlanta area. And we would love for you to be there. If you're in the greater Atlanta area, I know some people are just flying in just to hang out with us. We're going to be at the ETA conference there in Atlanta. And we would love to meet you, connect with you, and do that. We'll hear more about it next week. We'll get an email put together as soon as I sign the contract. And we are looking forward to seeing people. On behalf of Jeff Zaret, thank you so much for joining us, Jeff. Thank you for being part of the PayProTec family. And thanks for just being a generally fun guy to watch on Instagram. That's also, a lot of our partners don't, they post sad stories. Now I always can count, you're going to be at Disney, sometimes, you're real, but also you're in Disney and you're flying. And I always like when I catch that. But thank you so much for doing that. On behalf of Jenny and Mike, this has been another Office Hours. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody. Bye, guys.
See